In this video, we will take a look at various ways to execute some code at Spring Application Startup. But before that, it is important to know why this would be required. There are many scenarios. The application might configure itself by creating database connections, writing some files or log data, etc. The application may load some static data from database, probably for preparing a cache. Code can be executed at startup to run background tasks such as scheduling periodic jobs or starting up a daemon process. The application might connect with some external servers to inform them that I am ready to accept API request. There are many more scenarios. You would have got an idea why this is important. Now let's jump straight away and understand some ways in which this can be done in a Spring application. First and the simplest method is using PostConstruct annotation. Let's see this in action. Create a new class, name it Startup. You can name it as you like. Add component annotation over this class to make it a Spring managed bean. Define a new method and name it init. Again, you can name it as you like. Print a message here. In a real application, you need to put the logic that you want to execute at startup here. Annotate this method with PostConstruct annotation. Start the application. Look, this message is printed at application startup. Method with PostConstruct is called just after the bean is initialized and its dependencies are injected. There should be only one method in a class with PostConstruct annotation. Remember that for this method to be invoked by Spring, it should not accept any arguments. So, let us add a string argument. Start the application. It fails to start and look at the error. Requires a noarg method. Second method to execute a code on Spring Application Startup is using InitializingBean interface. Remove all this and implement InitializingBean interface. When this interface is implemented, we are required to implement its AfterProperties method. Print a message here. Start the application. The code written inside AfterProperties method is executed automatically at startup. AfterProperties method is called when application context has been initialized and all bean properties have been set. Third method is using CommandLineRunner interface. Remove this method. Instead of initializing bean, implement CommandLineRunner. Now we need to implement its run method. Write a print statement here. Start the application. The code is executed on application startup. Run method is executed after the Spring application context has been completely initialized, and you can see that the print statement is executed after the application has started. This method has an added advantage that you can get access to the command line arguments that are passed to the application. These arguments are automatically supplied into this array. See its description. Incoming main method arguments. Similar to command line interface, Spring provides ApplicationRunner interface. Remove this method. Implement ApplicationRunner interface. Once we implement this interface, we have to implement its run method, which is automatically called after the application starts. Print a message here. Start the application. The method is called. A difference between CommandLineRunner and ApplicationRunner interface is that the run method of ApplicationRunner accepts an argument of type ApplicationArguments, which can be used to access application arguments and option arguments as well. Option arguments are arguments that are supplied with double hyphen. So, let's add an option argument while running the application as --host equal to localhost. Here, host is the option argument and localhost is its value. Now, let's print the arguments and their values. To get access to argument names, use its getOptionNames method, which returns a set. Iterate over this set using forEach method introduced in Java 8. Print this option. Now print its value. To get the value corresponding to this option, use getOptionValues method and pass it the name of the option whose value we want to get. Run the application. Look, we have access to arguments and their values. With the application arguments, you can access the normal command line arguments as well. Look at the documentation of application arguments. Provides access to raw arguments as well as option and non-option arguments. Here is the example. Another method to execute code at startup is by listening to events. Spring has an application ready event which is published when the application has completely started. To listen to an event, we need to implement ApplicationListener interface. Remove this code. Implement ApplicationListener interface. This is an event, and since we want to listen to application ready event, set this value as the same. When we implement ApplicationRunner interface, we are required to implement onApplicationEvent method. This method is automatically called when an event is published, and Spring publishes application ready event after the application has started. So this method will be called when the application has started. Print a message here. Start the application. This method has called after the application has started. You can also call a method defined in a Spring Manage Bean at startup. This method is called when a bean is initialized. Remove all this code. Let's define a class myBean. Create a method and print a message. Create a method in this class that returns an object of our new class. To register our new class as a Spring Bean, annotate this method with @bean annotation. Also change component annotation to configuration, since this class contains bean definition. Finally, if we want to invoke the startup method defined in myBean, then provide an initMethod attribute with bean annotation and set its value to the method name. Run the application. Look, the method is called at application startup. In this video, we looked at 6 different ways to execute some logic at Spring Application Startup. Out of these, many required implementing Spring interfaces so that their callback methods are automatically called, such as InitializingBean, CommandLineRunner, ApplicationRunner, and ApplicationListener. Remaining two were using PostConstruct annotation defined over a method and initMethod attribute with @bean annotation. How did you find the video? Let me know in the comments. Hope the video was useful. Thanks for watching.